Alright, so here I am now in the document camera, and as you can see, I've already written some stuff on the paper. This may look familiar to you. This is the same data we had on numbers of arrests that 12 people in a sample had that we used for the frequency distribution demonstrations. So, as a reminder, each of these is a number of prior arrests that each of 12 people have. So this person has 2 prior arrests, this person has 1 prior arrest, this person has no prior arrest, and so on. So our n here is equal to 12. As I mentioned on the last slide, there are 3 different ways that you can find the mode. One is to just eyeball it. So in other words, take a look at your data, here's our data, and see which observation comes up the most times. And you can look at this and tell pretty quickly that 0 is our most frequent observation. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and no other observation appears as many times. So if you look, you can see we have 1, 2, 3 1s, we have 2 2s, we have 1 3, we have 2 4s. So none of those are as many as our most frequent observation, which is 4 zeros. So we have the most zeros, we have more zeros than any other observation, and that means that our mode is 0, just by eyeballing it. As I mentioned before, another way to do it is to write a frequency distribution out and then use that to find the mode. So I'm also going to write out the frequency distribution that we used last week. So step 1, as a reminder, write out the different values that your variable can take on. Here those values are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then write out the frequency with which each of those different values appears in your data set. So I'm going to do this quickly because I'm just copying down what we had last week, but we had 4 zeros, 3 1s, 2 2s, 1 3, and 2 4s. So here's our frequency distribution. The nice thing about this is that it does what we were doing with eyeballing, but saves you the step of having to go through the data and actually count things out. So this tells us that we have 4 zeros, 3 1s, 2 2s, 1 3, and 2 4s. We're looking for our most frequent observation. That means that we're looking for the highest frequency in this column. Our highest frequency is 4. That tells us that the most common or prevalent observation is going to be 0. We know that because we have 4 of them. So our mode is going to be equal to 0. And something quick to note here that trips people up every once in a while. The mode is 0 because 0 is the observation that appears most frequently. The mode is not 4. This number 4 here just tells you that among all these frequencies we have, this is our biggest one, so the observation attached to our biggest frequency is going to be the mode. But the frequency itself is not the mode. So mode is equal to 0, not 4 here. Alright, so we have one other way to find the mode, and that's to use a graph. This is ratio level data, so we'll create a histogram for this data. And this should also look pretty familiar since this is what we looked at last time too for histograms. So here we have number of arrests on our x-axis. We have frequency on our y-axis. And I'm going to fill in the graph using this frequency distribution that we have. Where I have 4 cases with 0 arrests, so I'll draw a line up to 4 for 0. 3 cases with 1 arrest, so I'll draw a line up to 3. 2 cases with 2 arrests, draw a line up to 2. 1 case with 3 arrests, so I'll draw a line up to 1 here. And then 2 cases with 4 arrests, so I'll draw a line up to 2 here. The mode on your frequency distribution is going to be your tallest bar. And here the bars show you the frequency of the observation. So the biggest bar is the highest frequency or the most common observation. So again, we can see that our highest bar here corresponds to 0 and our mode is once again equal to 0. So if you're ever unsure about this one, you can always double check by trying it with one or the other different strategies for doing this, but they should all give you the same mode or most common observation.